Hey guys, welcome to a new one. So today I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of one of the most important things you need to be doing as soon as you get keys to your house, and that is to get rid of those keys and change your locks. I know this is a daunting task. You might be thinking of calling a locksmith and thinking that the job is so hard that you don't want to do it yourself, but I'm here to reassure you that it is a very easy thing to do. The only thing I think that is important is making sure you get the right type of lock. So it's more of the preparation than the actual task is at hand. In case you do, or you're not entirely sure or confident in what I'm saying, all you need is a screwdriver and that's it. It's one screw to take out a lock and one screw essentially to put it back in. It's that easy. The only thing is the prep work. So without further ado, let's get into that prep work, things you need to consider, and essentially how to go about ordering a lock. Right, so this is a door, as you can see, with a lock currently in place. This is a thumb turn, but that isn't important. You can have a normal traditional lock which uses a key. This currently has a thumb turn. I don't really like the idea of this, but this is what's currently in place, and I'm going to be changing that. But don't worry if your lock doesn't look like this and it looks more like this. This isn't important. You can have either or, it doesn't matter. Before we go ahead and remove this lock, one thing we need to make sure is that this lock is actually the correct size for this door. You might find that your lock actually sticks or protrudes ever so slightly more than maybe a different lock in the house. And ideally you want maximum of 0.5mm protruding out. If it is more than 0.5mm, you should bump up to the next size. And this might make more sense when we have a look at sizing, etc. on locks that you can order. But for now, I think what you need to do is, before you remove that, get a tape measure and just have a look, a reading from the base of the handle, so you can see like that, to where the lip is of the lock itself. So because this is a thumb turn, it might be a bit more difficult to exactly visualize what I'm doing. Right, okay, so you can see I have my tape measure butted up against the handle frame, and I'm just measuring how much the lock, the cylinder, protrudes out. You can see here, what is this? This is about maybe a mil or two, I would say. Yeah, a mil or two. So in this case, this is fine, because 3mm is less than 5mm, so all good in that sense. But if yours, say, protrudes by 7mm, you should keep this in mind, because what we're going to be doing is taking the cylinder off and using this as a template for the cylinder we need to order. It will make sense more so when I come to order, but I just thought it's important before you go ahead, remove your lock, and then wonder if it has been protruding or not. Just make sure you just quickly have a look to see what the protrusion is. If it's less than 5mm, completely fine, use this as a template. If it's more, just keep a note, maybe write on a piece of paper, and then you can get back to it when you actually come to order. But now let's go ahead and remove this lock. All you're going to need to do in order to remove this is unlock the door, and if you look alongside, you will see, if you can think of an imaginary line right here, and you draw one between both sides of your lock. So from here down here, you can see that there might be one, there might be two. Right here we have two screws, Phillips head screws, that hold the lock in place. One of these is for the chassis itself. The other one is actually the one we're interested in. It doesn't matter if you, for example, take off the wrong screw. It's not the end of the world. You just put it back in. But essentially, what the screw that we need to take off is going to be a long screw. So I know this lock enough to know that it's this one. But the best way to do it is just to imagine an imaginary line going from this to here, and having a look to see what Phillips screw aligns best with it, and targeting that screw itself. So let's try and take this off. So I've got my Phillips screwdriver. This is a H2 size. Your one might be different, but most likely it will be H2 as well. And all I'm going to do is unscrew this screw, like so. And you can already see, so as you unscrew it, you should feel this movement in the lock cylinder itself, and that's when you know it's the right screw. And also, your screw should look something like this when you take it out. It should be much longer than the rest of the chassis screws in place. So I'm going to put that aside. And this is where, so I have a thumb turn, so I have a bit of an easier job. But what you could do is insert your lock, into your keyhole. And what you're going to do is try and slightly turn this to maneuver the cylinder out. So you might feel that it locks in. So for example here, I can't pull it out at this point. If I just slowly turn this, so you were doing the same maneuver just with a key, you should slowly be able to release the cylinder out, like so. And that's it. This is all it takes to remove your lock cylinder. So let's take this back to the table and analyze it further. We have our removed old lock cylinder. Now what we need to do is abstract the correct measurements from this cylinder, since we're going to use this as a template in order to figure out what measurements we need to order a new one. It's worthy to note what side is what. So in this case, I know the thumb turn is going to be in the inside of the house. This side's going to be in the outside. So that is the case here. However, and let me just grab a different cylinder. If you're not sure, so for example here, I'm not sure what side is what. Normally, they have a little symbol that says exterior, interior. So this will be facing the inside of the house, that will be facing the outside of the house. And that's important because what we need to do, if I show you this diagram, we need to find out B and A. A is the external size to the center hole. So in this case, this part here. And B is the internal size to the center. So from here to here and here to here is what we need to measure. And then we will get the overall length from that. So C is essentially just A plus B. So we're going to need to measure. Your lock is trusty tape measure. And then we are going to measure A and B. So first of all, let's orientate our lock cylinder so we can see that the thumb turn's on the inside here, on the right, similar to the diagram. So the outside facing is on the outside edge on the left. So for A, I'm just going to pick this up just to show you better. I'm going to push the tape measure to the face of the cylinder and measure from here all the way to the center of the hole. We can see that reads 5 centimeters. So we now know A is equal to 5. And just for ease's sake, I'm just going to flip this and measure from the inside face to the center. And we can see that reads 4 centimeters, or thereabouts 4. So we know that A is equal to 5, I believe, and B is equal to 4 if memory serves right. And so the overall length is going to be 5 plus 4, which is 9. So that's what we need, and that's the information in order to get the correct size lock. So let's move on to the importance of how much your lock should be protruding outside of the face of your door or handle. So what I'm going to do to help explain this is actually do a little drawing. So if this is the face of our door, so face of door, you might have the handle out, but let's just say if it's all handle, actually, just to make things a bit easier, we're going to have our lock cylinder go through like so with the screw hole somewhere here. Right, so as you recall in the past, A is going to be the distance from the face of the cylinder, so from here to the center a screw hole, so that's your A, and then let's call protrusion as x. So protrusion is the length from the face of your cylinder to the face of the handle or the door, depending on what kind of door you have. We want to reduce this as down as possible. And the reason for this is to prevent something called snapping, or where a burglar or intruder can grab a hold of the lock with pliers and attempt to snap the cylinder in half along this line. And then what they're able to do is, once they've snapped it, they're able to pull this out and manually turn this with a screwdriver and unlock your door. So that's what we're trying to prevent. Now, there are other features that are present on this lock. So anyone with a keen eye would notice there's a fault line here, but I'm going to be talking about that later. For now, I'm just going to be talking about just this protrusion and focusing on that. So we have A as the distance, sorry for repeating myself, from the lock cylinder, face of the lock cylinder to the screw hole, and X is from the face of the lock cylinder to the face of your handle. Door locks come in various sizes, but they are in 5mm segments. So door locks will be, so the distance for A would be 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, and so on. And those are all in millimeters. So this is what's going to be available to you on the market when you have a look. So you would only be able to buy one with 35 for A or 40 for A, etc. So in this case, let's say the existing lock that you have, A is equal to 50 millimeters, right? And let's say the protrusion X currently, from when you've measured, is 8 millimeters. Now, if you remember what I said before, we want to achieve a protrusion of we want to achieve a protrusion of less than 5 millimeters, right? So we want that. That is the goal. Ooh, that's our goal. So how are we going to achieve that? Because right now, we're not achieving that goal. And the way we do this is simply by downsizing. So you can see we have an option of 50, but we also have an option for 45. We also have an option for 40. So let's explore this, right? So let's say I want to downsize to 45. Or let's say I want to downsize to 40. If I downsize to 40, that means that A would equal 40. And if A equals 40, X will equal 8 minus the difference between A here and A there. So since we're going downsizing by 10, it will be a reduction of 10, which equals minus 2. Now, what does that mean in terms of physical hardware? That means that this lock is now not going to protrude at all, but instead is going to be inside of your handle. So you're essentially going to have a gap between the door, face of the door, and the handle. And that's obviously, who wants that, right? So that is an incorrectly installed lock, but rather than it protruding, you're going the opposite way. So that's a reduction that's too big. So we've downsized too big now. So let's get back to what we should be at, which is 45. We have another option. Right. So if we downsize to 45, X will now equal 8 minus, and the difference between 50 and 45 is 5. So that is 3 mils. And 3 mils is less than 5 mil, So this is exactly what we should be installing. So this is the measurement that we need for A. You would basically carry out these steps again for B, and then you would have the lock that is perfect for your door. And I hope this makes sense. The reason why you don't want this protrusion to be more than 5mm is for features that I'm going to be talking about next. And these are safety features that come installed in not all locks, but most locks that have a certain security standard in place. So if you ever look at this lock, you'll notice the face of this lock might be a bit hard to tell. There we are. You can see there's 3 stars and it's got a diamond. It's by Ultian. I'm sure if you've been looking into locks, you would have heard this brand before. This lock essentially is a highly resistant lock. So it's one of the most secure ones that you can purchase currently. And that is indicated by the diamond and the 3 stars. And so locks are rated based on various different measures and features that the lock has, and these are indicated by, for example, the number of stars and the rating that is given to a said lock. So these are going to be certain locks that are resistant to bumping, snapping, picking and drilling. So for example, you can even see here, this has a fault line in the lock. So if someone was to grab a set of pliers and try and snap this lock, this particular cylinder would break at this fault line, preventing a burglar from entering the house and manually pushing this lever, for example. And this lever is essentially what moves your lock in and out so that you can lock your house. So this has, for example, a feature here. And it has many other features within the cylinder itself to prevent bumping. It's made out of a certain type of metal so that you can't drill, or it takes a much longer time to drill this lock. And I would recommend you go for a lock that has 3 stars and a diamond rating, just because they're not more expensive. They sometimes can reduce your home insurance. So yeah, you're spending more on your lock, but then you're saving more from insurance. And also it's just a case of, if I'm going to get burgled, I'm losing a lot more money from a bad lock than having one of these installed. A load of burglars see this, see the rating, and most of them just don't even try, just because of how difficult it can be and obtrusive in terms of you would have to make a lot of noise to get through these locks. And most burglars want to be finding the easiest form of entry. And so this just is a good way to prevent any intruders from even thinking about breaking in. So I have my replacement lock, as you can see. So I've gone, as I said before, for a lock without a thumb turn. Again, different brand. So this is by Caveo, and you can see again it's got the 3 stars. It's British Standard rated and has a lot of the same features that this lock, Ultian lock, has as well. So it's got, you can see, an anti-snap fault, slightly much further in than here, but it's got the anti-bumping, it's got protection against drilling, all that sort of stuff. And one of the other things that I've done with this, but you don't need to, is there's the option of getting key alike. So with the Ultian locks or the Caveo locks, you can get key alike, so you can use one key for multiple locks. We've done that in certain places, not everywhere, just certain places around the house, because it just makes life easier than having to find your keys and find the exact key. But these are all the options that you can have when you're buying a lock, and those are the things to take into consideration. I really do recommend just getting a diamond rated, 3-star rated lock. Not much more expensive, but it's more of the protection against future harm, and I think it just makes sense to go ahead with those. So once you've done that, I'm guessing if you're ordering from a hardware store, you're able to just get your lock on the same day. But in case you want, you're gonna probably have to reinstall this back into your door, wait for this to get delivered, your new lock, and then you can remove it again and install the new lock. But as you've seen already, the removal is so easy. The installation is literally just those steps in reverse. It's as easy as that. So I'm just going to show you that, and let's get on with that. So I have my new lock in place, I'm now going to insert this back in. Just make sure, one of the first steps is inserting your key into one of the sides, but making sure you insert this cylinder the correct way. So again, you can see exterior, interior is this side, exterior is that side. So we're going to make sure that interior stays on that side. Simply just slot this in, and you might find it a bit tricky. So you've just got to wiggle it around. This is being much more tricky than normal. There we are. Just going to carry on wiggling, and there we are. Pushed it a bit too far. There we are. And once it's in place, you should be able to just pop a screw and do it by hand first, just to make sure the cylinder's in. You can see that it isn't moving anymore, so I know that that's now in place. The screw has found its way into its place. So now I need to find my screwdriver. I have found said screwdriver, and you can see this is just a basic screwdriver. I'm not even going and getting my toolkit from the garage. That's how easy this job is. I am literally just going to put this screw back in, and there you are. And that's it. So you can see, if I just take this off, you can see how seamless and flush this side of the lock is, because, well, fortunately enough, the sizing just works out on this interior side. On the outside you can see that it's slightly out, protrusion, but it's not more than 5mm, and that's exactly what you want. You want ever so slight protrusion, or it to be flush, but you never want the cylinder to be inside, if that makes sense, as in not protruding more so inside the handle, and you also don't want it to be protruding a lot out. And the final test, just to make sure, you know, it's great, is turn it, unlocked, unlock, unlocks, and you can let your dog out. So I hope this video shows you exactly how easy it is to change your lock cylinders when you do get your new house, or if you've lost a key and you need to get that sorted out. Whatever it is, whatever the situation, if it comes to replacing lock cylinders, I hope this video has showed you exactly how easy it is, but also the steps needed in order to make sure you do it in the correct way. You might even find that your existing locks that have been replaced by a locksmith in the past isn't the correct dimensions. A lot of the time they might not get a cylinder that is the correct dimensions, so your lock might be protruding more than 5mm. And if you're doing it yourself, you might as well make sure, take the time and make sure everything is perfect. And I hope this guide basically does that for you. And like I said before, just make sure you get a lock that is highly rated. I know it's tempting to go cheap, but when you go cheap, you're essentially allowing someone the option to break in, because trust me, some of these locks are very easy to break into, or to break, and then for the burglars or intruders to break into your house. I've seen it myself. You can go on YouTube and just see how easy it is, and the difference between a lock, for example, that is just a basic lock, and a lock even just with one feature like anti-snapping. So hopefully this video has helped you guys. If you do have any specific questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm more than happy to help out, answer any questions, even if you have a question on, you know, what length and what dimension you need to consider, which one's better, thumb turns versus keys. This wouldn't be my first option. Thumb turns wouldn't be my first option to go with, but I've had the experience and I do see the benefit of having it. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully this video was useful, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.